Welcome to the Hockey Writers Blackhawks Banter, a weekly show with our top Chicago Blackhawks writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from Chelsea Dagger to the Madhouse on Madison, our team covers everything that happens with the Hawks. So get comfortable, grab a beverage. It's time for some Blackhawks Banter. Blackhawks Banter.
Hello, Blackhawks fans, and welcome to Blackhawks Banter, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. This is the 68th episode of Blackhawks Banter. It's the Slater Cuckoo episode. If you guys remember him, he was 2018-19, 2019-20 season with the Blackhawks, and I just wanted to say cuckoo, so I had to throw that in there.
Loved him.
Anyway, we are very, very excited. We have a new guest, a new face with us today, and this is our newest Blackhawks writer, Connor Smith. Welcome to the show, Connor. How are you?
I'm doing well. Gail and Brooke, it's great to be with you too. I'm in Naperville, Illinois, so not too far from Chicago. We just got some snow over here. So I kind of got trapped by the Fool's Spring this weekend, was out having some fun this weekend, you know, in the nice weather and watching some hockey. But yeah, this is kind of where we're at this time of year. But like I said, it's great to be with you too. And I'm excited to talk about the Blackhawks today.
We are so excited to have you as well. Absolutely. Connor's actually been with us, I want to say, since January, and written half a dozen or so, I think a little bit more articles. So be sure to check those out, along with all of our great content at thehockeywriters.com. And of course, we have Brooke Lafferty here today with us. How are you, Brooke?
I'm good. I'm ready to party.
Awesome. I'm your host for today, Gail Kauchak. And to get us started off, I thought since there's three of us here, we could actually kind of talking about the week that was, go through each one of those games. So last week's games, let's see here. First, we had the Oilers, and it was the only win of the week, 4-3 in overtime. And Brooke was going to give us some highlights and takeaways from that game.
That's why I said I was ready to party, because we got one win. That's exciting. But actually, I will say this because I said this on Twitter too, that Edmonton I thought was the one game that I felt like was probably the most complete game I've seen the Blackhawks play all season. Usually it's very shift by shift. You're always like, they play good for one shift and then the next shift just blows apart. But this one, they were very good for all three periods. And I really, really liked that. They scored first. That was really big for them, especially against the Oilers. And I also like that although they let the Oilers back in at the end with the empty, with the extra attacker, the Oilers scored there to tie it, to go to overtime. But I will say the Oilers did give that game away. And usually the Blackhawks aren't good with gifts. Usually when they're giving gifts, they either leave it or it just doesn't turn out well. But they actually took advantage of that and they won. And that was really good for them. That was a good, I think, moral win more than anything, because that's a very good scoring team. And we kept McDavid and Draisaitl in check pretty much, besides the power play goal. But overall, it was a pretty good game, and they took advantage of it. It was nice to see.
Yeah, it was fun to see a win. And come on, it was Nicholas Chalmers' legacy night.
It was, and they got a win for him. They're 2-0. They're 2-0 on legacy nights, so every game here on out should be a legacy night.
Yeah, and nice to see Taze back and see Duncan Keith in the building. So it was a great game. I wish we could go back to it.
Yes, I wish. And we have to see Palmerson more.
Yeah, well, now we got to move on, I guess, to the next games, which were both losses. I'm going to talk about the Flyers game. So basically, you know, in my mind, this was really a lost opportunity. The Blackhawks should have won that game. They're fighting a team that's not real good along with them. And they were up, they were up 3-2 going into the third. And then they just, kind of put their foot off the gas. The Flyers added 2 goals. And then there was that fourth in 2 games, too many penalties, too many men on the ice. So basically that just thwarted any comeback attempt at all. But okay, we still had Strome that had another great game. He's really been on fire lately. 2 goals. DeBrincat, your usual suspect with a goal. So that was nice to see. And the last thing I should say about the Flyers game was that it was really a very, very physical game. Lots of scuffles, lots of pushing and shoving, lots of, kind of heated exchanges. Jonathan Taze stepping into things his first game back. You don't really like to see that, but he's the captain and that's what he's going to do. And in the heat of the moment and everything. So I don't know. Hopefully he got a little talking to. Hey, don't do that. But it does lend to the fact that these guys just care and they're sticking up for each other and they're fighting it out, even when the season is pretty much over. So it was nice to see at least that, even though it was a loss. So
Yeah.
And then the next game that we have was the Lightning game, which was Sunday 6-3 loss. And Connor, I think you were actually there. So what can you tell us about that game?
Yeah, I was at the United Center for this game, my fourth game as a Blackhawks fan this season. And let me just start off by saying that despite the 6-3 loss, this was just a cool game to be at, because not only do you get to see the back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champions, but it was also International Women's Day celebrations. So They honored 6 of the U.S. Women's Olympic hockey team members, including Kendall Coyne-Schofield. Prior to the game, they did a little ceremony. And I know she's done some work with the Blackhawks and in the community. So that was really cool to see, as well as Tyler Johnson's first game back against his old team. I know they did a little private cup ring party prior to the game. But getting into the game itself, the first period, the Hawks were off and rolling. I mean, they ended the period up 1-0 from a Dylan Strome goal, who we're going to talk about later in the show. However, if it weren't for Andrei Vasilevskiy, who, man, he just made some really incredible saves, not only in the first period, but down the stretch. At the first intermission, it could have been, easily a 2-0, 3-0 game. And the Hawks did carry some of that momentum over into the second period. Just a minute into the second, the Lightning did tie the game 1-1, but then quickly Patrick Kane fired a wrist shot past Vasilevskiy, which made it a 2-1 Hawks lead. And then the Lightning, they did tie it 2-2. However, where I felt this game really kind of turned was around, I think, the 7-minute mark into the second period, where Alex DeBrincat called for tripping, just one of 2 Hawks penalties on the night. But as soon as that ends, Tampa Bay defenseman Cal Foote, he gets his first of the season, gives Tampa a 3-2 lead, or no, they tied it, and then Tampa scored. It was 3-2 lead. So for Tampa heading into the second intermission. So again, the Lightning kind of had the momentum on their side heading into the intermission, and where it really broke down again was in the third period, where Tampa was up 3-2, and the Hawks quickly into that third period allowed 3 goals in 32 seconds. That's the fastest time the Blackhawks have allowed 3 goals, and the fastest since March 2003, when they played the New York Islanders back when I was just a little kid. So very, very, very early before I became a hockey fan or a sports fan. So again, it was 6-2 Lightning there in the third period. And even when they made it 3-2 there in the late stages of the second period, I think it was Victor Hedman who scored one of those goals, an absolute clapper. We were kind of talking before the show how he's always kind of been a kryptonite for the Blackhawks. It kind of just felt inevitable, and DeBrincat did make it 6-3 later in the period. However, it didn't really matter at that point. Final score, again, Lightning 6, Chicago 3. And I was reading a report from Ben Pope, actually, of the Chicago Sun-Times after the game last night. If you take away those 32 seconds, it would have been a tie game. However, unfortunately, it's a full 60-minute effort. You can't really do that. And yeah, the Hawks, they just looked overwhelmed there in that stretch. And the Lightning did outshoot them 32-27. So again, not really the goaltending battle between Vasilevskiy and Fleury we were expecting. But yeah, overall, just a disheartening effort, especially being there. But yeah, better luck next time, I guess.
Those 32 seconds were just, it's true, because they were playing really well. They actually played a pretty good game, and it's disappointing. But that's what happens when you go up against a really good team. They know how to close it out, and they know how to do these things better than the Blackhawks. So for sure. All right. Topic number 2 for tonight. We wanted to each pick a player to highlight basically throughout the entire week here, just to talk about kind of good or bad. And discuss their contributions. And so, Brooke, who did you want to talk about?
Kubalik. I picked Kubalik because, you know what? I know that this has been a really tough season for him. I know we keep saying this week after week, but it has. And it's almost like each game you just want to see something from him just to kind of raise his confidence a little bit. And finally it happened. I know during the Edmonton game, he actually did have a couple really good looks. Didn't end up in the back of the net, but until Mikko Koskinen decided to bounce the puck away and Kubalik hit the empty net goal there. That was awesome. I thought, I was like, he finally got a break that went his way. So I was really excited for him because, like I said, he played really well that game. I thought he deserved a goal, and he did get one, even though it was fluky. But you know what? They don't ask how. It just happened. So I was happy for him, wanted to highlight that because, like I said, it's been tough, and it's nice to see something good happen for him during this week.
Absolutely. And to see him, on the first line, I think he's definitely benefiting from playing up higher in the lineup as well. So hopefully he'll continue to look hot. Okay. Connor, tell us who you would like to highlight this week.
Sure. I'm going to be highlighting Dylan Strome. And let me just preface this by saying, Gail, I saw your tweet. Happy 25th birthday to Dylan Strome, the birthday boy today.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, quarter of a century old. I mean, it's pretty hard to believe when you think about it. But I wanted just to highlight Strome here because despite the Blackhawks' woes, for what it's worth, I thought Dylan had a pretty good weekend. After getting an assist in the Edmonton game, he scored twice against the Flyers Saturday afternoon and then registered a goal and an assist against the Lightning yesterday. So overall, that brings him to 20 points in the last 25 games. So right down the middle. I mean, I do think he does score in bunches. Again, that's 5 points in the last 3 games. And then 4 of those 20 points came January 26th against the Red Wings when he got that hat trick and assist. So he definitely can score in bunches, but I just think watching this play, it's definitely encouraging given that Taves hasn't really been himself down the middle this year, and Doc's kind of had his woes as well. But I think it's interesting because it kind of gives the Hawks a conundrum, which we're going to be talking a little bit about here, but it makes that question, okay, do you trade him? Do you keep him a little bit more harder? Because on one end, he's in RFA after this year. But then on the other, like I was saying, he brings such a great competitiveness. Taves and Doc have both kind of been struggling. And ultimately, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if he's going to be a part of this rebuild. I'm not Kyle Davidson. I'm not in his shoes. But maybe it's a situation where you do want to keep him around, maybe get him on a bridge deal next year because, again, he is an RFA. But no matter what happens, he's a guy who, ever since the Hawks brought him over from Arizona, I've been rooting really hard for. Maybe he hasn't necessarily lived up to that third round or third overall hype when the Arizona Coyotes drafted him back in 2015. But we've seen these busts of potential. And again, I want to see the sustained success. I want to see this consistency because, like I said, despite the struggles that Chicago endured this past weekend and on Thursday, Thursday they won, but it's just really encouraging to see this play from Strome.
Yeah, you mentioned his hat trick, and I tell you, I was really rooting for a hat trick when he got the 2 goals the other day too, but it was not to be. But that's okay. He'll have a few more chances. Well, we'll see. Maybe he will. We might get traded. All right. Well, for my player that I would like to highlight, I'm going to go a little bit out of the box here because, right, you guys know me. We know that obviously Connor just went over how Strome is really stepping up and we're getting the kind of production basically that you would expect out of your top 2 guys into Brinkett and Kane. I mean, you could basically pick them to highlight every week. And this is obviously really good to see. So instead, I'm going to highlight Sam Lafferty, my underdog pick here for the week. Against the Oilers, he started out the scoring with the first goal of the game, kind of set the pace for the team. And I believe it was actually Derek King actually said after the game, he was like, gosh, I should have given him more playing time because every time he was out on the ice, he had an impact. Turns out he did give him some more playing time in the next couple games. 11:55 minutes in the Flyers game. He responded with 4 hits. Lafferty did in the aforementioned, like we said, very physical game. And then 18 minutes in the Lightning game. So healthy ice time for a 4th liner. He's been playing on the 4th line with Philip Kurashev and Ryan Carpenter. And he's just doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's all over the ice. He's adding grit and energy. And that's exactly what his role is. And I just feel like he's a really nice pickup from the Alex Nylander trade in January. Sorry, Brooke. But I feel like he could be a good addition to this team moving forward. So he's my pick. We'll see if he can keep it up. All right, so we're about midway through the show. Real quick mid-show reminders. The show today and all the time basically is brought to you by the Morning Skate newsletter. This is a daily newsletter that can come to your inbox Monday through Friday. Not only do you have all the scores and updates, but really short and fun pieces about everything that's going on in the hockey world. It's really fun. I know I really like to read it when I get up. First thing when I wake up in the morning, just kind of peruse it and see what's going on. So you can go to morningskate.io to sign up for that. So please do that if you have not already. And now let's get into the third topic for today, which was going to be our trade line discussion. I mean, let's face it, you guys, we've got 2 more weeks, I think, till March 21st and the deadline. We know that Kyle Davidson last Tuesday was officially named the general manager. His first order of business was to part ways with assistant general manager Ryan Stewart and scouting director Mark Kelly. So 2 guys that have been with the organization for a while. But obviously his next main focus is going to be this upcoming trade deadline. So we've heard that the Hawks are going to basically listen to offers about pretty much any of their players, but some players are a little bit more on the forefront than others. So I thought we could kind of discuss them, kind of have our little trade rumor discussion here. So I think obviously we know the biggest trade chip, we thought anyway, I'm sure Connor will get into this, is Marc-Andre Fleury. So what do you have to say about the Fleury rumors going on out there?
Well, it's really interesting because I'm sure you two saw that Steve Simmons, who is a columnist from the Toronto Sun, said Saturday night that he heard that Fleury wants to stay put. And then immediately after that, I think it was Ben Pope of the Sun-Times, who I mentioned earlier, said that that's contrary. He hasn't heard that. And then Steve Simmons actually tweeted out a little while after that he's heard from multiple sources. I think on one end, Fleury wants to stay in Chicago. On the other, a trade could still happen. And then yesterday he put out a follow-up tweet to that saying the Hawks would, if they were to trade Fleury, would need to take on some salary or a bad contract in exchange. And I think when you look at pros and cons of potentially trading Fleury, of course, the biggest pro is he is probably the most likely trade asset to get that first round pick that, of course, the Hawks probably won't have this year. And he kind of will, by trading Fleury, it kind of helps kickstart that rebuild. But on the other hand, I mean, when you look at some potential, not just cons, but some bumps, if you want to try to trade him. I mean, right now, there are really, I'm sure as you two have realized, there are really no obvious suitors for him. Washington was one team that I know was kind of thrown out there, but I don't know how much sense that would make because you remember, he until he went to Vegas, he was with the Pittsburgh Penguins for so long of a time. So, I'm sure that would be a little awkward. And then I know the Oilers were another team that had kind of been thrown in that conversation. And I don't know if, how many guys want to go play up in Canada right now just because of the COVID restrictions and everything else that's been going on. But would I be surprised if they tried to move him? No, absolutely not. But would I be surprised if they kept him? No, I don't think so, because you got to remember he made this decision to come to Chicago. He has his family here. I know he's been out in the community a little bit. And of course, you want to get that rebuild going, but you also do want to have some sense of leadership. And I'm not saying, they should keep him, but you got to have some veterans there. And at the end of the day, I was reading an article from Mark Lazarus and Scott Powers of The Athletic this morning about how, back when Taves and Kane and everyone else was young, they had those veterans to look up to. So I think that could be, that could be really important for the Hawks. But at the end of the day, this guy is a future Hall of Famer. You got to respect what he wants. But yeah, I think the best way to look at this is try to move him, try to see what you can get back for him. But if you can, this rebuild is still early. Like Kyle Davidson said, don't panic. But yeah, I think everything's on the table right now and time will really tell with Fleury.
Yeah, it's definitely a conundrum with him. That's for sure. It's, it's a personal thing. You want to really do best by Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't know if you guys happen to see this, and I can't even believe I saw it because I'm having a really busy day today. It's actually Monday. We record on Monday night, so there could be much more on this by the time this actually drops tomorrow. But according to Frank Saravelli, Toronto and Chicago could be a trade match for Fleury. Could be a third team involved. Go ahead.
No, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of Toronto.
Yeah, right.
I did see that earlier.
So, and who knows, you guys? Because like you were saying, I think with the Steve guy, there's so much. Who knows? Obviously, Frank Saravelli is pretty credible, and I really haven't had a chance to verify this. It's just a tweet that kind of came through. So more to follow on that. We'll see. Who knows? But exciting times right now when it comes to that, because he's definitely the biggest name, I would say, with the Blackhawks. But there are other ones. So, Brooke, I think you wanted to talk to us about Dylan Strome, because it's not a show if we don't talk about Dylan Strome at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like this should be the Blackhawks Banter Dylan Strome show at this point. But you know what? Hey, Strome, do you know what I was thinking about while I was hearing you guys talk? I think viewers of the show probably know that I've always been kind of on the fence about him as part of the future of this team, because I do see the pros and cons. And this is actually, I'm at a point now where I am very confused about what the Hawks will do here. Because if you would have asked me at the beginning of the season, I would have said, oh, they'll for sure are going to trade him at the trade deadline. Now I'm not so sure that they will. But what I'm thinking is that if Hagel, like the reports about Hagel, or that he might garner a first, if he's worth a first at this point, I think maybe Strome might be worth a first-round pick in some teams' eyes. I know that's kind of a bold statement there, but the way he's been playing, and you know what? I know he's been linked to the Rangers a few times. They need center help badly. I think they're one of the worst teams in the league at center. But you know what? Teams do get desperate for centers like him. He's over 50% at the dot. He's doing what he's supposed to do. At this point, I think a trade return might be bigger than we might have thought at the beginning. But like I said, I do see both sides of keeping and trading him, but I am wondering what his trade value is at this point. Hagel has 31 points and he has 20. Strome has 26. So you know what? There's value there, but it is nice to see him play so well lately. You never want to see a player fail, especially the season he's had where he's kind of been in and out and this and that. But like I said, I know he's been linked to the Rangers. I think I also heard maybe the Devils. I might be wrong on that, but I know Rangers for sure. I do think they'll be suitors. So I am interested to see how this will play out, because I do see the reasons for keeping him and trading him. At this point, I think I still am on the trade him section, only just because I do think he might get a good value, but we'll see. I see both sides. I know. See, you know what I was going to say. So
yeah, absolutely. Strome is another one of those that you make a really, really good point there, though, in that he really has brought his trade value up. And if they're asking a first round pick for Hagel, then yeah, right. Like what might you get for Strome? So who knows? Again, Kyle Davidson's going to be pretty busy here. So you actually segued into Brandon Hagel. So I want to bring that up, and I know that this has been around for a couple weeks. Rumor has it that the Hawks are asking for a first round pick and a top prospect. We haven't really heard much since that.
Yeah.
So who knows? But I guess I wanted to bring up the fact that when Coach Derek King was asked about it, he was rather blunt when he said, oh, he better not get traded. He's a big part of this organization. And a lot of people kind of came out and said, you know, that's not what you're supposed to say, Derek King, you know. But I think it's kind of nice that he's so honest about that. And, you know, he did really say, you know, at the beginning of the conversation, he said, you know, management is going to obviously have to do what's best for the organization. So it's not like he's, you know, I don't think it was inappropriate for him to say that. But chances are, when push comes to shove, the Blackhawks, if they're going to get a first round pick for Hagel, it's going to be a first round pick later in the first round. So I really don't see this trade coming to fruition. And I really think that Hagel's going to be with the Blackhawks and part of their rebuild. So that's kind of where I stand with that. So this leads us to the last section and the most fun section, in our opinion, of our show. And this is the shootout round. So quick fire questions and some quick fire answers. I think we have 6 of them today. So let's get into this. First question, round number 1. The Blackhawks host the Anaheim Ducks later tonight, because we'll drop on Tuesday, and then face the Boston Bruins on Thursday and the Ottawa Senators on Saturday. So our usual weekly question here. How many games do you see them winning this week, Brooke?
You guys know I'm really bad at this. Do you know what? I'll go 4. I see a win against Anaheim and Ottawa, but not Boston.
Okay, so 4 points, 2 wins.
Yeah, 4 points. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same thing. I think I said that the last time too. And
Yeah.
they kind of had they kind of had the tough luck last week with the 2 losses, and kind of one of them that we're thinking that they should have won. So maybe their luck will be better this week. How about you, Connor? How many wins?
Oh man, I hate to be the pessimist here, but I'm gonna say 1 out of the 3. I think Anaheim's a win. I know they had a hot start earlier this season, but they are still rebuilding. I don't see how they beat Boston. We've seen upsets, but the Bruins have really been gelling lately. Ottawa was a coin flip for me just because, again, I think they've lost 5 out of their last 6, but they have a pretty nice core coming together. Again, they've been struggling as well, but that's a coin flip for me. I think both teams are in similar positions, but I'm going to say the Senators win that one. It's going to be tight, but I think 1 out of 3 is where I stand.
All right, you're picking up just where Greg left off with being the pessimist of the group. I love it. Okay, the penalty kill, question number 2. The penalty kill did good this week, killing 9 out of 11 penalties. I did not realize this until Brooke brought it up. Against the Oilers, Flyers, and the Lightning. Do they keep up the good work on the PK this week? Yes or no? I'm going to go with this one first. Yes, I'm excited that like I said, I was surprised that you said that. And I think that they're benefiting from Riley Stillman being back as well as Jonathan Toews being back. So let's keep up the good work on the PK. And Connor, what about you?
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I don't see any reason for it not to be, just because of the opponents we have this week in Anaheim, Boston, and Ottawa, 2 of those teams which have been kind of struggling lately in the Ducks and Senators. Both Anaheim and Boston have pretty solid power plays at 25 and 24.5% respectively. But for what it's worth, I was encouraged this week, like you said. So yeah, I think the penalty kill keeps rolling.
Awesome. We're all in agreement on that, and hopefully we are right. Okay, round number 3. Is this round number 3? Yes. We already talked about some of the players that might be moved to the deadline. And Brooke, you just recently wrote an article about him. You know who I'm going to say, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to hear from all 3 of us once and for all. Ryan Carpenter, trade him or keep him? Connor.
Yeah. Oh man, that's hard for me to say. I'm going to say trade him. I think, again, he brings some decent leadership, some decent grit. Brooke, I thought you made some good points in your article. However, I do think he is a replaceable asset that the Hawks have a little bit of already in that bottom 6 depth. Someone like Sam Lafferty, who we talked about, Mackenzie Entwistle, even maybe someone like Kara, when he returns next season to some degree. So I say try to trade him, but again, if you keep him, I'm not going to complain.
Okay. Brooke?
I think they're going to trade him. I would trade him, but actually, I think if Strome goes, I think they might keep him. I don't know. That's interesting. But I do think that he will get moved.
You think he'll be moved? Okay. I think that they should keep him. And I think that he would just be really good bottom 6 veteran presence, which I don't think surprises anyone because y'all know I'm a big Kirby fan. It's sad to see him go, but I just don't know what they could really get for him. But anyway, okay. Round number 4. Should interim head coach Derek King continue as a Blackhawks head coach beyond this season? Brooke?
No, I think they're going to need a more established coach. I like Derek King, but no, not for the future.
Okay. And I think I would, I agree with you to a certain extent. I'm not sure. I don't think he should be the head coach, but I really think that if they could keep him around as assistant coach, I would go that route.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. To kind of echo off you two, no, I don't think you keep him. I think you need an experienced veteran in that slot. I don't want to say rushed, but I feel like with how when Colden got fired and how they brought up to the interim, I mean, from Rockford, that's what we saw last time with Jeremy Colden, and it didn't work out. And obviously King's done, for what it's worth, I think a pretty decent job since being in those shoes. But I just feel that if you want to get this rebuild going, if you want to get it on the right track, you need that experienced veteran in that slot. But I do think he should be a part of the interview process. Kyle Davidson confirmed it last week at his press conference, which I think is good. And, if he stands out, if he keeps doing the right things, then maybe you look at keeping him. But right now, I do think you need a more established presence to help guide this rebuild along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess you make a good point there. All right, you guys, 2 more questions, quick fire questions here. There have been the rumors swirling around, teams asking about Patrick Kane. So do you think that Patrick Kane takes the bait and moves to a contender, or do you think that he's a lifer with the Blackhawks? And I'm going to start with this one. I think he's a lifer. I think that, what did he say? It would be an honor and a privilege to stay. And I think that he's working on some records, and I think he's gonna stay. So how about you? What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I agree with you there. This one maybe was a little bit tougher for me just because, again, the Hawks did confirm last week, Kyle Davidson specifically, that this is going to be a rebuild. But like you said, he did say the other day that he wants to stay around with the Hawks, kind of provide that veteran presence. And again, it's hard to see him just in a situation without Jonathan Toews. It's kind of like how Vancouver kept the Sedins together. I feel like if you try to move Kane, you have to try to move Toews to a certain degree. And again, weirder things have happened, but it's hard for me to see the Hawks giving up on Kane right now. So yeah, I think he's going to be a Blackhawk for life.
2 lifers. What do you think, Brooke?
I want to see him stay for life, but with the recent rumor about Colorado, I don't know why he wouldn't want to go to Colorado. I said last week, I'm not a hockey player, but I want to play for the Avalanche. I don't know why he wouldn't want to do that, but maybe he could go to the Avalanche and then sign back here as a Hawk as a free agent. Who knows? But I do think he should get a chance to win a cup, though. As selfish as it is, I want to see him stay, but I think he deserves a shot.
Yeah, you want to see him get number 4, huh? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, our last question of our shootout round. And this one kind of goes back to the games here. So the last game is the Senators game this coming Saturday. And the last time the Blackhawks faced the Senators, they scored 5 goals. Yay! So how many goals do you think they'll score this Saturday, Connor?
Okay, I am gonna say I think this could be a pretty high scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say 3, I think, against a team like Ottawa. That's a realistic goal that the Hawks can meet. But again, the Senators, I know they've been struggling, but, I think they've beaten Carolina a few times this season. I know they had a pretty big win against Florida earlier this year, despite the recent woes. But I think for the Blackhawks specifically, 3 goals is realistic.
3 goals. What about you, Brooke?
I'm going to go 4. Like Connor said, I do think it'll be pretty high scoring. And if there's one team I think the Hawks can score on, it is the Senators. They proved it last time, so I'm going 4.
All right, I'm one-upping all of you. I'm going to go with 6 goals. I think that they're on a roll, and it's going to be a good weekend, and 6 goals and a win.
That's what we need. We needed to end the show out with that positivity, Gail.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really would like to, that does end our show. I would like to thank Connor for being here with us, and thank you, Brooke, as well. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We always forget to thank Matthew behind the scenes, our producer, putting everything together and making us look pretty here. So, and don't forget morningskate.io, and come on back next week, you guys. We're planning another crossover episode around the Boston Bruin game. So thank you, and we'll see you all next week.